Researcher wants to know if there is a difference in mean test scores between students who completed an online review module and those who did not. A random sample of 35 students who completed the module had a mean score of 78 with a standard deviation of 6, and another sample of 30 students who did not complete the module had a mean score of 74 and a standard deviation of 8. Perform an appropriate hypothesis test at the 0.05 significance level, and we're going to say it's not pooled. Okay, if it doesn't tell you that it's not pooled, we're still going to assume not pooled. The only time we're going to put pooled yes is if they happen to tell us that yes, we have the same variance and we should pool the data. So if it doesn't say that, assume not pooled unless told otherwise. All right, so we've got two means that we're talking about here and two samples happening. So because these are samples, these are sample standard deviations, and so not going to be a z-test, it's going to be a two sample t-test. Okay, and two sample t-test in terms of the calculator, that'll be two samp t-test. Okay, so in terms of things they told us up here, they gave us an X1 bar. That was the mean for the first group, and that was a 78. They gave us a sample standard deviation for the first group, and they said that one was 6. They gave us a mean for the second sample, and they said that one was 74. And the standard deviation for the second sample was an 8. All right, and then we also had two sample sizes. So for our first group, we had 35 students, and for the second group, we had 30 students. Okay. So with that information and knowing it's going to be a two sample t-test, we're going to be able to enter all the things into the calculator, and we'll make sure that we hit no when it asks for pooled or not pooled. What are the null and alternative hypotheses for this example? We're going to see, does it say anything about higher or lower? It just says a difference in the means. So our null hypothesis is going to be mu1 is equal to mu2. And if we're just talking about a difference, then the alternative hypothesis is going to be mu1 is not equal to mu2. All right. We're ready to go find our test statistic, which is going to be a t because it's a t-test, and we're ready to go find our p-value. So we want the two sample t-test. So we're going to go down to the fourth choice here. And we did not get a list of data, so we want to make sure it's on stats. Our X1 bar was 78. Our sample standard deviation was 6. And there were 35 people in that first sample. Our second sample mean was 74. The standard deviation for the sample was 8. And we had 30 people in the second group. And our alternative hypothesis has a not equal to sign in it, so we're going to leave it there. And for pooled, we're going to select no and hit calculate. Okay, so our t-value, 2.25 approximately, and our p-value, 0.029 approximately. Okay. So our p-value, we're comparing to the alpha value, and the alpha for this one again is 0.05. So the alpha is about 5 pennies, and our p-value is about 2, almost 3 pennies, but it's still smaller than the alpha value. So since p-value is smaller than alpha, we're going to reject the null hypothesis again. We've had a lot of rejects. Okay, So with a reject, our conclusion is going to be there is sufficient evidence. At the 5% level. To suggest. And then we go look at what we said was our alternative hypothesis, that there's a difference in the two means. And so the means that we're talking about were test scores for the groups of students. So we're going to say, suggest that there is a difference in the mean test scores for the two groups. All right. So just to recap again, anytime we end up saying reject the null hypothesis, when you go to write your conclusion, you're going to say there is sufficient evidence to suggest whatever this says. And because the alternative hypothesis says that there's a difference between those two, that's why we wrote in there is sufficient evidence at the 5% level to suggest there's a difference in the mean. And then we said the mean in this case is talking about the test scores for the two groups.